Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Business of You Live, episode 14, actually. I'm your host, Michelle Griffin, and today's actually a really special, different version of the show. First of all, going monthly. And second of all, I've got two guests for the first time. People you are going to love, you probably know. And if you don't, you need to know. And we are going to share and dish it all out. This is a fun event. This is conversational, learning from what we found, what we've shared, what people have taught us, all the things we've learned on LinkedIn, going in on LinkedIn this year. So in just a second, welcome to the Business of You podcast, the show dedicated to helping service entrepreneurs build a better brand to grow a bigger business. I'm your host, Michelle Griffin, and I'm here each week empowering you to put yourself out there, sharing actionable tips and inspiring stories so you can create your personal brand, grow your dream business, and build your future, all while making more income and more impact doing exactly what you love. I'm super excited you're here. Now let's get going with today's show. All righty, surprise! I've got not one but two guests today. It's so good to be here. Let me adjust our settings. All right. So as you know, or I've introduced myself, I'm Michelle Griffin. I'm a personal brand strategist and consultant for entrepreneurs. And I am so honored and excited to have two friends of mine here who you guys are going to love. If you probably already know them. If not, we're going to dish it all out and share their insights and their expertise. So who wants to go first? Let's go Austin. Start with the A. Austin James, how are you today?
I'm doing quite well, Michelle. This is awesome. I'm super excited for this, and it's a pleasure to be here. I guess for anyone that doesn't know me, we'll get into origins later, but for anyone that doesn't know me, Austin James, I'm a accredited small business consultant. You think I would know that. But I basically just help small business owners get unstuck. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Absolutely. And as the title's called, brand, Austin's got the business and Sam's got the community thing covered. So Sam, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself and tell us where you are, because you just moved, and what do you do?
Hey, my name is Sam, and it's hard to describe what I do because I've done so many different things in the last few months. I literally just moved to Utah, and I'm working as a sales manager for a company called Brick. They're kind of riding the wave of iBuying, which is kind of a whole new thing, kind of like Carvana, but for houses.
Very cool. Like, congratulations. He literally just moved to Utah. It's been crazy. He's still in hotels. So, and also tell us your community building is too, because you do have some connection with audience income. Tell us about that real quick.
Yes, I do. Absolutely. So I work as the community manager for audience and income, which is Justin and Jennifer Welch's group. Just a bunch of people online trying to build up their own businesses, income, coaching, or building a website, blog, whatever it is.
Absolutely. And I'm one of the founding members too, joined in May. And I would highly recommend the community all over the world, global, almost to 400 of us now. Justin and Jennifer do a tremendous job. And you do, Sam. You do too, Sam, as our community leader. Okay. So introductions aside, you know who we are and why we're here. Why we're here is to help you build your brand, your business community. And all of us here actually decided to go in on LinkedIn this year. We're going to share our stories. There's people here who want to get out, thinking about it, not sure. So we want to know LinkedIn doesn't have to be a complicated thing. And there's a lot of great people here, and it can build your brand, your business community. So let's throw it out there. Where do we start? I'm going to talk me last. I'm the host. So I want to tell Austin, tell us your quick story, how you got here and what you found and what you're learning since you got out here.
Absolutely. So actually, I've been on LinkedIn since last October. So it's about to be a year, but no one really knew me. I mean, I built some pretty good relationships, but at the end of the day, I was winging it. I was actually a financial coach, and I was just putting out different tips and whatever. I had no idea what I was doing up until probably this past June when I hired Michelle, and we started to actually create a strategy for LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. And although it's not complex, I feel like it's something that with time anybody can really understand. And master might not be the good word, but best word, but it's something that everyone can learn and really continue to progress at. But once we started to kind of have that strategy, figured out who I wanted to talk to, my message, figured out what kind of value I want to provide and how I can build that kind of community, things have taken off. So I actually pretty much credit June 1st as when I really started on LinkedIn. It's a struggle. Sometimes it sucks. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are watching, they want to build a foundation. They want to build something here on LinkedIn, which is completely possible. There's tons of great info that's out there, tons of different great tips and tricks, but because they're so general, you might need a little bit more of a personal touch. So having that personal touch, aligning it with who you are and what you actually want to do, combine that with some strategy, and you're on your way.
Absolutely. That's so true. Well, one of the things about Austin is when he first started working, you were on Facebook, right? You were in Facebook mostly. And so you realized you're better served here. So that's a good point.
Don't remind me. But yeah. Yeah, and that was me. I was balancing LinkedIn and Facebook together, and I thought Facebook was going to be it until it didn't work for me. I know it works for other people, so I won't bash them, but it just didn't work for me. But I found LinkedIn to be a better spot, and with the right strategy and consistency, turns out that was the truth.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. We're going to get more into that in a minute. Now, Sam, your story, I remember when you first posted, tell us that unique story about how you first rolled out.
It's pretty crazy. I've been on LinkedIn for a couple of years, but I've never really been active until like about 7 months ago or so. These people kind of get started and get going and everything. So I started doing this thing where I'd scroll all the way down to the bottom of these creators page. Sometimes it took like 5 or 10 minutes, and I just like leave a comment, because oftentimes it was the only comment on these huge creators. I'm talking, 100,000 plus followers. And so I'd get all these reactions like, how on earth did you find this? And it was just kind of this fun thing. And I was like, well, maybe I can kind of make this into an analysis of these different creators and how long it kind of took them to get going and everything. So I did that, and I wrote an article about it. And it was kind of my first thing that really took off. Looking back now, I don't know if I had considered that it really took off, but it certainly went well for me at the time. And I started thinking like, hey, I've got this first opportunity where people kind of see who I am. I'm getting some attention from some people that I've followed for a long time, that I really enjoy the content every day. Let me just try to post every day, because I know one viral post isn't going to make it. And I started posting every day. Traction started to build. And crazy enough, one of the people that I posted about, Justin Welsh, he and Jennifer ended up offering me a job a few months later to work for them. So yeah, it was just kind of this crazy steamrolling thing.
Perfect example of, I know people maybe get tired of hearing me say that. Maybe it's just me. It's behind me. Put yourself out there. And I know it's easier said than done, so I'm not glorifying that, but you did. And what a unique way to go down to all the way to the bottom. I can't even imagine. That's awesome. So there you are. And then slowly you've just been building and growing, and you have quite the community followers who love all the great things you spill. So thank you for that, Sam. Real quick, my story, I've been on LinkedIn since 2008, my previous role, and became an entrepreneur myself February 1st, 2020, and really dived in on the platform. But the problem is not consistently. So on January 1st, I'm an all or nothing person. So I said, I'm going to take the leap. And I made this pact with myself that I was going to post every flipping single day of 2021. That's crazy, right? So crazy. Anyway, a lot of people want to come for the ride. Who knew all these people came to the woodwork? And so I formed the 365 challenge. There's about 300 people in that group, and we're all doing it. Now, we're all in the honor system here. So I know personally some that aren't breaking the streak, and that is fine. It's not about progress over perfection. But I'll tell you what, it changed tremendously everything for me. It is the hardest thing, but the best thing. Anything good in life is worth the effort. So we'll talk about that, but it's just consistency. And now the problem is I'm not just trying to put out crap content, as they say. I really try to take the time to give good value, whatever value means for people, to help people and build at the same time community, because that is huge. So that's another reason why we're here to build our network. So let's talk about some of the things now that you know who we are and our backstory as it relates to here and how we're building our brand, our business community. What's the first step? There's probably people watching maybe the replay. And if you're here, put it in the thing. We'd love to know you're here or your replay. What's your first step? Like Austin, you knew you didn't have the right gut feeling about it. So now what you know, and Sam too, what would you say is your first step to break out or to get out?
Because you can have your business, you can have your great ideas of what you want to talk about and things like that. But if you don't know exactly who you're talking to, it's going to be real hard for your content to kind of attract that ideal client. So you got to take that time. And I remember I had numerous different ideal clients, you know, especially when we started working together, but actually first off taking the time to figure
Hmm.
out, okay, who makes sense, who aligns with me, who's my ideal target client down to the, you know, minute details. Once I knew that, then it's like, okay, then we could start talking about the next steps. But first things first, you got to know who you're talking to.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things, another thing to just illustrate examples. When you came to me, we actually switched our avatar. We switched it because it wasn't aligning, especially on here. And then you lit up, and that actually is more aligned, like you said, for you, because you thought you should be doing this, but actually it made more sense with all your background and your brand, all the stuff, right? So, and then you went out with this thing. And has that changed any since you started going out there? Have you changed your avatar? Or, not changed it, but you just get clearer, right, on what they
Yeah,
need.
yeah, and you know what? I think that I feel like we've always talked about this too. It's just like a natural evolution, I want to say. And I mean, it's great. I mean, you want to have your starting point, and that's what we had. I mean, when we were working together, I came up with the ideal client of working with people that have side hustles. That really hasn't changed. What has changed is kind of the approach I'm going about with it. Do I want to focus directly on side hustles, or do I want to kind of expand just a little bit farther out? I mean, a side hustle is a small business with limited time. So what if I did a small business that has a little bit more time, or it has been
Mhm.
in the game for a little bit longer? So you kind of expand out nice and easy. But I think especially when we start talking about the branding and the community side of things, having that niche at first really does play a crucial part.
Yes.
And we'll bring that up. I don't want to jump the gun, but we'll bring
Yeah,
that up.
that's really important. And Sam, I'm thinking this here as we speak. You are the representative right now for people who are building their brands who are working in a company. Yes, it can be done. Absolutely. So I want you to, if you don't mind, Sam, because I think you, even before this job, you were working in another, as a corporate brand.
Sure.
Can you talk about that? Because I get that a lot. Like, how do I build my brand? Or they just kind of tune us out because they only think it's for consultants, entrepreneurs, whatever. So tell us about that and what you've learned since you've stepped out.
Yeah. So at first, when I started getting a little more popular on LinkedIn, I thought pretty seriously about going the coaching route. And eventually I just decided that simply because if I'm trying to measure it by ROI for myself, everyone is different. There's amazing coaches like yourself in Austin here in the platform, but just the return on investment, I just started receiving opportunities.
Mhm.
I had a job that I started a few months ago and it was going pretty well, but this new job came along that was, probably an even better fit for me. It's just been one of those things where as long as I've kind of contributed to the brand and independent, but just carving away a specific amount of time. I think for a lot of people, they're on LinkedIn and they're just kind of on and off of it all
Mhm.
day. And at this point in time, I just can't really afford to do that. I've got work to do. My hours that I'm working have significantly increased. And so just having specific times in the day to just kind of go after it, which has been a bit of a struggle as more is piled on.
But there's a way to do it, you're saying. So maybe carve out a little bit of time because I think it can be done if you carve out. Okay. One of the things I like to say is if you're like me, or maybe not, when I'm bored or don't want to do something, unfortunately, I pick up this. Okay. So
Sure.
think of all the time we scroll social media. Heck, sometimes I think, gosh, I could have worked out during that time. It's stupid of me, but we can be creating just a little bit, or maybe if you can't create, go comment, find 20 minutes or whatever. And that keeps you out there. And you may not be able to create content every day, but you can certainly comment every day. And that certainly is a way to keep staying visible. So
Sure.
did you find that?
20
Because you're super busy now, right? Especially with the move and all, Sam.
Yeah, I would say in general, if you have like only maybe 20 or 30 minutes a day, don't even focus on commenting right now. I'm sorry, don't even focus on posting right now. Just go and comment on other people's posts and everything. If you do that at first, it's a pretty good way to get momentum for yourself because there's some people that they come, and I'm a little bit guilty of this lately, I'll admit, only post, why aren't my posts doing well? And it's like, well, because you're not part of the community. You have to be part of the community in order for people to want to kind of reciprocate that.
Right.
Yeah. And guess what? It's not a very exclusive, we're very open armed and supportive here. This isn't some tight knit thing, that inner circle that you can't be a part of. Very welcoming. That's the beauty of LinkedIn. You just got to show up and support, give. That's a great point. So that time barrier is a huge thing. So I'm so glad. Anything else, Sam, that you would say as far as time that you would, I guess, not posting so much, commenting, anything else you want to chime in there, or we'll circle back next question?
Yeah, just have your time, like know what you're going to do. So it's easy to just scroll and think that that's your LinkedIn strategy.
Yeah.
But it's really not. Like, if you have time for it, like, go ahead. Like, it's fun to do. But if you only have so much time in a day because you're working a full-time job, you're trying to build your presence online, carve out that time and say, here's what I'm going to create suggestion of having at least 10 people's posts every day. They're frequent posters. Then you can go to those posts, you can comment, you can do that kind of thing. But just have in mind, okay, I'm going to respond to messages. I'm going to post something. I'm going to comment, like whatever it is, just try to hit all of those key points in a day. Because it can be easy just to scroll. And you've spent an hour on there and you haven't really accomplished that much.
Right? Absolutely. And just be intentional and strategic with your time. And that's like a life lesson, not just a LinkedIn lesson, it's a life lesson. And trust me, I'm the worst at that sometimes. So not preaching here, just trying to learn myself. But yeah, great tips. Okay. So question of how do you stand out? Okay. I'm going to ask a question. You guys jump ahead too, because we have questions that we're kind of asked people and we know, and I might be jumping a little bit here, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask it. A lot of people push back on me about personal brand. They're like, no, I don't want to be personal. It's self-promotional. How do you build who you are and show your personality and all that and do that balance? Let's just say, for example, there's that whole crowd like, this isn't Facebook. Then there's a whole crowd's like, be yourself. There's a whole lot of point of views. And that's really at the end of the day, what you got to remember, what's for you. But how do you guys balance that? And how do you develop your awesome personalities here on LinkedIn?
I know lately with me, I've just been like kind of just throwing it out there. I mean, it's kind of at the point because I've been on here enough and built like a pretty decent community that people have an understanding of the personality side of things. But I think it can really be conveyed. I mean, when you think about when you're texting someone and someone's texting you and they're putting like all caps and they're putting like a billion exclamation marks, you're not hearing them. But when you're reading that text, you can tell that someone's yelling at you. You can tell when someone's upset with you just because of how it's phrased. So you can kind of put that same line of thinking when it comes to your content. At least that's what I've seen. Now, you don't have to, I know some people, like you said, they're not squeamish, but they're a little hesitant to put out pictures, like personal pictures or personal posts and stuff like that. Not saying you have to put up pictures of your kids and talk about your family to build something. But I think that the way that if you write your content using kind of like the same style of speech that you use.
Yeah. Conversational.
Yep. Yeah, you're saying that's the better word, conversation style. People will pick that up. And they'll see if you're stiff, if you're like kind of mean, if you're straightforward, if you're a little tongue in cheek, or if you're just kind of just out there and just like chill and just kick. People will get the vibe. They always will, especially if you've been doing it kind of day in and day out.
Absolutely. Well, your content is your brand because there's people who are snarky and, like, that's their brand. There's people who are, empowering, that's their brand. And that's really good. Now, before I jump to Sam, how do you balance? Okay, because there's a whole side, I said that wants us to be very personal. And this isn't any jab at anyone. I'm just calling what I see. There's a whole other side is like, no, stay 100% focused business. You're here to sell, So I personally have inner struggles on that because I know both sides to be true. So I guess I need to be somewhere in the middle, but that's why I always seek the interesting insights of others. So how do you deal with that, Austin?
Even on my personal posts, I still link it to business. Now, okay, yeah, people have the Facebook. It's not Facebook debate. I can see that because I see some posts and I'm just like, okay. But I mean, when you think about the Facebook posts, a lot of them are aimless. When you think about it, I'm putting up a picture of my dog or I'm putting up a picture of my family. You're just putting up pictures or you're just making posts just to kind of just put it out there. But LinkedIn, I mean, the general theme of LinkedIn is business. So even if I post up a picture of my niece or something like that, and I did, it was her sitting in my office and I made kind of like a joke that I'm going to be out of the office, but reach out to my secretary. So it's something personal. It's about my family, but it's still, even when I'm joking, it still has like a business twist to it. So I think there's totally ways to put up like tasteful personal content, but still make sure it aligns with kind of like the theme of LinkedIn. If I'm posting up pictures of my dogs, it doesn't really line up too much, so.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that niece post. She was sitting right where you are right now. It's adorable. See, I remember that. See, you posting that. That's a good point I'm trying to make here. And but tying it, so you have a good middle ground, tie it to a business thing. And that was perfect. So good points there. Now, Sam, tell us how you struggle with it or not, or what's your ideas on that?
I mean, I agree with Austin on a lot of what he's saying there. LinkedIn's kind of a special place where you can have serious discussions about stuff. So if people just want to post kind of this inane, kind of funny stuff all the time, they'll get views. Don't get me wrong, like they'll get views. We all know that, but it doesn't really build your brand. It's not or an authoritative figure in any way. If anything, you're going to get more views, but people might actually think less of you, which is kind of a crazy thought right there. But people can post personal stuff on occasion. It just has to tie back into something like business, or, you know, if let's say that you've had this great personal struggle for like a long time and you've been able to beat it. I think that's okay to share because you've accomplished. If you're talking about it every single day, that's another thing. Yeah. But people want to see accomplishments. People want to see even failures. LinkedIn is not like Instagram, right? It's not, hey, let's look perfect all the time. The people who I've noticed, from what I've noticed on LinkedIn, people who only post perfect stories about themselves will get a lot of kind of followers at first, but it's usually people who are new to the platform and they don't really understand the culture of LinkedIn. And then after a while, the creators to follow after a while. So you have to be pretty careful with it. But people get really scared because they're like, well, I don't want to show like my whole life. You know, there's the idea of being authentic and genuine, but how do you like balance that? Like, I'm gonna let you know, you don't have to let people know every terrible thing you've done or like your most embarrassing moments. Like people don't want to know. Like we're not interested in that, but just having a little bit of kind of raw honesty every once in a while really brings people messages coming through and really building up those relationships.
Yeah. Absolutely. And even if you can go on people's LinkedIn lives, or I'm not saying you have to host your own, but showing that in real life, me, like maybe people are getting to know the real me instead of my written content this way. And, you know, my always goal is I'm 100% how I am online as I am offline. Like, that's just me, you know. But the one thing, the caveat that I personally struggle with is I'm super private. It's really weird. So I'm not going to probably ever be the one who shares my family stuff. I just don't feel comfortable doing that. But I will share my lessons and my stories. And that's the way people want to know about your stories, but how it relates to them, the lesson tied back to them. So that's a safe bet too. So if you personally are struggling with that out there, as Austin and Sam said, and maybe like this idea I have, just tie it to a lesson learned so others can learn something too. So that's really good. I mean, that's probably like a huge problem. I see that, wanting to get out because they're scared. Now let's talk about another reason. It's not about being scared. I'm going to talk about the failures too, because we all have them, right? We have to be genuine and real. When you're planning content, I don't want to get this all content-y and all, but what's your best advice? Like, I know you kind of told me, let's maybe talk about how to structure things, because I was doing that training today and people wanted to know, hey, what's the best content to put out on LinkedIn? And I had some ideas for him, but I'd love to hear you.
I don't think there's a definitive answer with that. And we've talked about that before too. And I don't think anyone has a direct answer for that, because it depends on, taking it back to what we talked about in the beginning, it depends on who your market is.
Yeah.
It depends on your audience and your community, because you might have, I mean, Sam, you posted up an article and you got more traction off an article. I post up articles, they barely get seen, but I get more traction off of maybe like my written short form posts. Some people, I've seen them and I've read the stories, they blow up off of doing videos. And I mean, there's so many different content avenues you can take on LinkedIn. You got the documents, you've got articles, the videos, the short form, the long form, the one-liners, the whatever, the people posting up their Twitter screenshots. You've got so much variety. So I think it comes down to, you've got to test each one out to see which one you get the most bite on. You know?
And the one you like doing the most. Like, you're like, if you guys aren't following Austin and Sam, of course.
Just Austin.
Just Austin. Okay.
No.
Sam's so humble. And I didn't even, I mean, like, this is your natural born gift. Like, his headlines are like ping you out. Like, they're just, they nail it. So I think today was like a good one. Like, you're always like, usually I pull up LinkedIn and like yours pops up and I'm like, oh, that'll get me out of bed, you know? So a good headline will say it all, but you know why? Because you're really comfortable and you're good at that, Austin. I think that's your thing, is text posts, right? I can tell.
I feel like
the obvious guy on LinkedIn.
Yeah, exactly.
But you find it though. you find it for yourself. Because Michelle, I mean, when we started working together, I never heard you tell me, okay, Austin, start off doing short form content. You
Yeah.
never said do this, 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 and this. You gave suggestions. I just did short form because my attention span is horrible.
Me too. Me too.
So I was like, okay, let me keep it real short and quick in 3 or 4 sentences and throw it out there. And then that's just, like you said, it was easy for me and it was out there. So I think, I mean, I think everyone should just test it out and see what they're comfortable with and see what gets a lot of bite and then run with it. Bump it.
Exactly. Love that. Thank you. Now, what about you, Sam? What's your thoughts on that? Because you've been posting late at night lately. Because you've been like busy.
Yes,
busy.
part of that is because I'm just hopefully I'm moving into like an apartment tomorrow, and once that actually happens, everything will be much more simple. So the late night posts are because I have to. Really, because it's a personal challenge myself that I'm trying to post every day. Stuff just happens and I don't get around to it. But I think what's inadvertently happened is I've built up a late night audience. So, it takes a while to do that. So I don't think I could ever stop posting entirely at night. I don't think I can switch only to mornings because sometimes I've switched it up and I don't think as many, I shouldn't say audience, it's a community, right? Like we're all kind of
absolutely
helping each other out and commenting and everything. If they're just trying to start posting content, and if you've just kind of been liking stuff and you haven't even been commenting, don't go right into posts. Just like take a month and just develop your commenting, because that commenting is going to be used when you write a post anyway, because you're going to have to respond to comments on your own posts in the first place. But people will start to get to know you, like, oh, hey, I know this person. Like, and so when you actually start posting, people will know who you are. And then if you've been commenting for a while and you're wanting to start writing posts and you don't know what to write about, like, go look at your comments. I tell people all the time when they're commenting around a post, wow, this is a great comment. You should make this into a post. And it took me like a few months to even think like that. Like, oh, I can take a comment that I've written and turn it into a post, and it's so much easier to do it that way.
Because you're not thinking too hard, right? Yeah.
Oh, I can. Yeah, just start building up a content bank if you want. If you're nervous about posting, start doing this thing where, okay, I'm going to take some of the comments that I've done on people's posts, make that into your own post, and get like 10 or 12 post together before you ever start posting. And that way, what I'm going to write about today, well, you've got things that you can take from your bank, you can put it into a post, and you kind of just keep building it like that. And after a while, it's just going to come second nature to you, and you're not going to have to do that. But I think that's a good way to start, because it's easy to like, okay, I have this great post. And then like the next day you're like, what am I going to write about?
That's true. Yeah. Great advice. A couple of things I was going to add to that. One of the, I was just reading our Slack community, and maybe I should do this, but anyway, they take every single, or maybe it was someone else I read, I don't know. They take every single one of their comments. It might be our friend Chris. Shout out to Chris Hughes. He takes all his comments and puts them in a spreadsheet. I'm like, wow, that's dedication. But you know what? I'm writing stuff sometimes like that could be a really good post, but I never do anything with it. Like I should start doing that. Here's why. You can get your personality out in the comments because you're not overthinking it. It's a little bit hidden, right? But you're still there and you're on the radar of these people, because once you comment, especially if you tag them, like right now, I've got a DM LinkedIn support. I am not getting any of time people comment on my or like my posts. Nothing is in my feed. The only time I'm getting notifications, someone tags me. So that's weird, but you can't go wrong when you're commenting to actually tag back the author. That way you can know because sometimes not even when it's broken, but LinkedIn just doesn't tell you it's not 100% right. But anyway, you can get your personality out there, get the relationship, keep those ideas. So as Sam said, take your post idea or your comment and just put it in your iPhone notes, wherever. And you're going to start feeling more confident, and the ideas will start flowing. That's the gift of when you start getting out there. I swear, just because here's the thing, when I was commenting a lot end of last year and inconsistently posting, I'd see all these people and I'd be in awe of them. I'd be in awe of them, because I kept thinking, how in the world people know what to post about all the time? Like that was like the world's complex problem to me. Don't ask me why. Here's the gift, guys. And I swear it happens to me. It happened to Austin. Once you start doing it, it's the gift of putting yourself out there. They start flowing. Wouldn't you agree that to be true? you start talking to someone like, oh, that could be a post or something. So just do it. That's another benefit.
I think that's entirely true. I mean, I'm on day 120 of
Go,
posting
Austin.
daily.
That's awesome.
And I have no idea what I've been talking about for 120 days, but apparently everyone else does, which was good. But yeah, no, it really does. It does flow. And you gave a great idea, which I've heard numerous people talk about too, is that, any ideas you've got either from comments or anything that pops up in your head or anything you think can make a great story, just throw it on a spreadsheet, throw it in a notepad, just like brain dump on anything. And then you can use that and twist that. So I think that's been helpful. Most of the time I wing it anyways, so you'll figure it out eventually. But yeah, I think brain dumping is a better strategy than a
off the cuff winging it. You wing it every morning, right? You just post or the night before still. Is that right?
Yeah, I pretty much wing it. I mean, I'll have maybe an idea, but I gotta say, at least for these past 2 or 3 weeks, I've definitely been winging it. But still, it's turned out pretty good, and I think that's because once you've gotten to that point where you've got a community and they know you, and you might even know them off of LinkedIn, it's a whole nother level of support.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. And some people do it off the cuff, like, when you're in school and you waited to the last minute, one of those people, and you get your most brilliant inspiration last minute. Sometimes I do that too. But Sam, what about you? You're late night, you're getting back from work, you're tired. What do you?
I mean, yeah, lately it's just been crazy. But when I first started, it was much better. I would kind of think through things a little bit better than I probably do now. But like I said, I think it's going to come back. Part of it is that my brand is shifting. And so at first I was talking all about just LinkedIn, and then it just how to kind of build that community. And then it's going a little bit more towards community building in general. And part of that is because I've been interested in community building all my life. Mm-hmm. And God forbid, LinkedIn, dies in like a year, as social media sometimes does, I want to be able to have, something else that I can kind of fall back on a little bit. And I think even the people who are solely focused on LinkedIn, however, after a while, a lot of that transfers to other social media, emphasis on community. So some of my posts are a little more community based in general now. And so that takes a little bit of a shift in thinking of, okay, how am I going to structure my posts and everything around that? So that was a very long, rambling answer that I'm not sure
it's a good
question, but there you go.
No, you bring up a good point. When LinkedIn, we all took a hit like in August or something, when the algorithm kind of started tweaking our engagement, made me realize that, and I knew that, but no one practices what they teach, is that you can't rely, you got to have your own platform, and your own way of getting people. If, God forbid it went down, you went LinkedIn jail, you were banned, whatever, don't just, this is a place where the fish are. Bring your fish somewhere else, just go find them and then bring them off. So that's always easier said than done, but that's something that I want people to think about. So in the sake of brevity, because I don't want to overdo it, I want to shoot in our successes, failures, and our takeouts. And that way, and look, we already talked about that. We'll be back probably at the end of the year and a quarter, and then to the quarter, like the fourth quarter starts Friday. Wow. October 1st. We want to come back and talk about a year in review and what all the things we've learned. And I want to talk about your successes, and let's be genuine, honest. We probably had failures too. Let's share those and what people can do to get out there. So Austin, tell us yours.
Okay. So successes, on LinkedIn.
And be okay to brag about yourself. This is your spotlight, in general. It could be about others. It could be about you too. Okay.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I think that success is so far, it has been building a lot of really great, solid relationships. If we take this back to June, I didn't know either one of you guys. And now here we are, really good friends. Had you guys on my podcast. I've got a podcast now.
Yep.
Just like having these kind of relationships has helped me to evolve in my business, which has been really cool. Let's talk about failures though. Failures are the fun stuff. I actually posted about it today. Recently, I definitely experienced burnout 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I could tell, not because I was like, oh, I'm tired or whatever, but because usually I'm always reading books, like business books, and always watching like business videos, like business. But there was like 1 week where I just did not want to do it. Mm-hmm. I was not motivated to do it. And even when I tried to force myself, wasn't happening. And it was such a change in what I was always doing. So I already knew that was burnout. Since then, I've been a little bit more personal on LinkedIn about, okay, what's going on. So I know that before, I was posting a lot of just like straight up advice, like business advice, throwing in a little personality, but more just advice every post. But now recently, these past few weeks, it's just kind of just been, I'm just kicking it. I'm sitting down with my community. I'm just saying, hey, you know what, guys, I got back into the gym again. I'm just balancing that in business. I've been talking about how, my business isn't really my forefront in my life right now. I'm focusing on these other aspects and kind of just talking about mental health. Like I've been more personal because of experiencing that burnout,
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I don't know if you consider burnout to be a failure per se, but it's definitely not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a negative. So I've turned that negative into something that I can actually just like humanize myself a little bit more with who I'm talking to, and have gotten a lot of great like feedback, and I feel like I have closer bonds with everyone I've been
Yeah,
talking to, the community. So
absolutely. It's great.
definitely worth it to put yourself out there, and I stole that from Michelle. But yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Steal all the way. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I align with that too. I'll tell you in a minute. But Sam, tell us your success, failures, whatever you want to share.
Sure, sure. First off, Austin needs to brag a little bit more over there because
Yeah, true, true,
he's
true,
been
true.
taking off,
good.
posting every day for like 4 months. Got the podcast going. He's got like all these business like partnerships.
Yeah, that's right. He's too humble. That's his failure,
Yeah,
which is good. I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. So I mean, I've had failures at the time. I look back at the time I saw them as failures, but looking back, it was just more of a transition, I think. But I think that's how like a lot of life is, right? You're like, oh man, I completely failed in this, but a new opportunity comes up. So I had kind of a couple of months. I was living in a small country town. So another little failure is I was building a tiny house and I never quite completed it because now I've moved to Utah. But I still have it, so it's still there. I can always still complete it, but it's a failure in the sense that I never actually completed it. I didn't live out there as I intended, but new opportunities just kept coming up.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think it's just been, like I said, return on investment, just seeing that people that you're helping eventually start to look out for you. So that's kind of one of the biggest things that I've learned is that people are not a means to an end, right? They're not like, you're not using people to get what you want in life. It's, you've got all these amazing relationships and they're, Lord willing, they're going to continue throughout your entire life. You can continually build each other up with. And so I think I've just been very fortunate in that when I first started on LinkedIn, I was just kind of randomly helping people as best I could, whether it was, kind of looking around for jobs for them or helping them with their LinkedIn content a little bit or just whatever I could. And then people just started looking out for me. And I think both of you guys have looked out for me quite a bit. And I really appreciate you so much for that. And yeah, it's just, I've had these new job opportunities come up. Like really, I kind of stick out like a sore thumb a little bit in the corporate world, but these things have happened where people have started to notice like, oh, hey, Sam has these soft skills that actually can help us in our business. And I think for a lot of people out there, they're looking like, well, I've got these soft skills, maybe I'm empathetic or I'm caring, just kind of a really caring person, encouraging, but it's hard to see how is that going to work in business. But I think it's a brand new age. Businesses are starting to look out for those people. You've got
really good stuff. I think we all share the same. That's why we're here. We're drawing together. We both are all about people first. I've always said, even before I came into LinkedIn, I've always been a people first marketer. My brand's to humanize business, marketing, whatever. It's what I do. The people I've met, honestly, from even January 1st, where I started, or maybe even to start in December meeting the people I've met this year are seriously friends, virtual friends. I mean, we don't see each other in person, but they have been my most tremendous asset this year. Just the people. Okay. That never changes. That's more important to me than anything. Well, my family, of course, but you know what I mean? Okay. So just the people that have launched, helped me, that just propels you. So those have been my biggest success. Yeah. And I was able to find a way to, get out there and be consistent. So I'm actually proud of myself, whatever today is, 270, I don't know, I have to count them. I just know that December 31st, I don't have to post 7 days a week anymore. That's all I know. But anyway, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'll go to 5 days. But anyway, that's my biggest sense of accomplishment, the people and just persevering. And then all the opportunities that came from that. Okay. So I have to say, Austin, I hear you. In July, I hit the wall too. Okay. Putting yourself out there is good, but there's a caveat. You cannot put yourself out there too much. I was doing way too much. Just tearing I just had this inner anxiety, suffering from migraines, a little bit depression. I mean, I just was like, this can't be, I didn't sign up for this. Like, why did you say yes to all this? You can't say yes to everything, please, people. You can't. So anyway, I had to cut back on things and ideas. And although I hate that, because it's almost like a FOMO for me, because I want to be out there to help. But at the end of the day, you got to help yourself so you can help others. So burnout, whatever you want to call it, doing too much and saying yes too much is a negative, because it's going to impact the way we show up in the world to help others. So that's my deal so far this year. And I'm just looking for the next 3 months and doing opportunities. Oh, and I was proud of myself for doing this LinkedIn Live. Another thing I was doing too much was doing this weekly. It was just too much. So I'm going monthly. So I thank you guys for debuting on my monthly show. That's awesome. So we're 45 minutes into it. Let's just close this out. Give people one solid nugget. How about this? I always close out my show and the episodes and podcasts with what's your professional personal mantra, your word nugget, your punchy words of wisdom to help people build, in your case, Austin, business, community, and I'll do brand. So how about you go, Austin?
Oh,
I'm putting you on the spot too. Sorry.
Big time. I don't have a mantra
or a song. Okay, it could be a fun song. I don't care at this point because I'm putting you on the spot.
I do have some advice.
Okay.
Definitely take the relationships you've got on LinkedIn, take them off the app. You can never go wrong with that, because people like Sam made a really great point earlier. You know, if for some reason LinkedIn goes down next year, even if the app crashes, not all the millions of people on it, they don't crash at the same time.
Absolutely.
So if you got these relationships, even if LinkedIn crashes, I can still shoot Sam an email, or I can still call Michelle.
Yep.
We can still have this. So take it off of LinkedIn and you won't regret it. You will never regret it.
You can make a punchy tagline out of that for sure. It's good stuff. Thank you. Sorry I put you on the spot about that. Okay, Sam, what are your words of wisdom?
Yeah, just kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier, just it's not really karma, because I think it's much more concrete. Look out for people, right? Like if you're thinking, well, how is helping this one individual person going to help me? That's kind of the wrong on LinkedIn if that's your mindset. So just, hey, every person you can, as long as you have time, right? Like I've got commitments to other things, and sometimes there's projects that I can't focus on, but as much as you can, just serve other people.
Yes.
And eventually that starts to come back for you. Because if you're on LinkedIn, let's say you're helping 1 to 2 people a day on LinkedIn. Okay. Well, like after like a few months, that's a couple hundred people that are like, hey, this person has helped me out. Now I can help that person. And whether it's jobs coming your way or people offering you like podcast guest spots or whatever it is, things just start to happen for you after a while. So it's just a mindset of helping other people, and eventually it's going to come back to help you.
Oh, that's great stuff. Yeah. Do you see our theme, how to build a brand, a business community? It all goes back to people first. So I love that. So I've already said what my mantra is to build a brand, but at the end of the day, let's practice the law of reciprocity here. Just give without expectation, and it'll come back to you. So those are our words of advice for round 2 of how to build a brand, a business, and a community, which we'll be back in December. I'm already marking that on our calendar, guys, so we can do this. So I just want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and all your words of encouragement to everyone out there, including me. I've learned a lot from you. So thank you. So thank you guys, everyone on the show, for tuning in live and on the replay. We're super honored you're here. I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to say, come back. We'll be back I'll be back next month with another wonderful guest or 2 or more. And we'll be helping you build your business and build your brand. So until next time, take care, everyone. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for tuning in today. You know, we definitely need more impactful entrepreneurs like you out there. So if you'd like to learn more about how I can help you build your personal brand to grow your business, please check out yourbrandyourbusiness.com. And until next time, you have a brand to build, a message to share, and people to impact. Now go put yourself out there and watch the business of you grow.